Hi, everyone. I am back from touring around in New York City and Vermont. It was really a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that we were able to try the live stream in New York at the assemblage. And I have in my hand my dear, wonderful, lovely, fluffy, and they're getting big, and they don't have a lot of patience with being on the live stream. But I wanted you all to take a look at him, and then I'll let him down. That he is like the small baby version of Simba, the cat that passed a year ago. And I am going to share some experiences related to that and all of the discussions that on this trip seem to be dominating so many of the discussions about matter worlds, other dimensions, and what happens at the moment of death. So right now, I'm going to let dear little Fluffy down to go play with chocolate. And just remember, this is what my cat Simba looked like, only he's a baby and Simba was bigger. But going back just a week ago, what I had presented in New York at the assemblage, which is a beautiful place, I recommend it to anybody, where you want to go and have almost like an oasis in the somewhat chaos of New York City. Beautifully done, sort of made with the idea of what would be a perfect, almost Tibetan or peaceful country gathering in New York City, where people can come and have a presentation like I did on Whistleblower Revelations about AI and an alien presence, and have that on one floor. And then in another floor, people will be sitting at computers, doing entrepreneurial work, and throughout the hotel are various spaces for people to come from out of town there, and for those who live in the region to come and use the assemblage to assemble and share and meet like we did. And Lori and Michael, who are doing tonight the Earthfiles YouTube channel, we experimented for the first time with a live stream with Bill Skywatcher, who does Phenomenal Radio and KGRA, helping us there. And I think you guys let us know, but I think it really worked well. And now I have confidence or encouragement to do this more when I travel, is to try to live stream some of these events that I do. And that the next day after doing that at the assemblage, I flew to Vermont. It was like a retreat with about 25 people. Everyone concerned about the earth and what is happening to human consciousness, even human kindness to each other, that seems to be so challenged these days. And what everybody is talking about as a revolutionary time in which the general discussion is that it is palpable to everybody at the assemblage in Vermont, a sense that we are on the brink of a great change. Praying that it will be positive and not knowing, but a great, great change. Now, among these various groups, there was sort of a repetitive series of questions that kept leading to content that I wanted to share with you tonight about some of the things that I've been thinking about in both of those trips and what's been on my mind since. Like, you have a residue when you have a very wonderful, close exchange with other human beings who are worried about the same things you are, who have hopes and prayers of something that goes positively, and none of us know exactly what is coming. And I want now to go back for a moment to 1982. That's when I was director of special projects at the CBS station in Denver, Colorado. And I was producing a documentary about astronaut training and other high technologies in Colorado. This was 2 years after the broadcast of my TV special, A Strange Harvest, about the investigations that I did of the bloodless, trackless animal mutilations that law enforcement just simply told me off the record the perpetrators are creatures from outer space. I had been filming in 1982 with my documentary crew at a Martin Marietta facility where astronauts had been training. And then a few days later at the TV station, I received a phone call from a Martin Marietta engineer who wanted to meet with me to share what he said was some sensitive information that he didn't want to talk about on the phone. And he asked me in our meeting to never reveal his name or his work title at Martin Marietta. But here's what he told me in 1982. He said that he worked on the construction of a technology to be placed in a canyon near Sedona, Arizona, inside an all-brick building, no windows, and that he sketched for me, I still have this sketch, an odd, round, slatted machine. It was like in two parts, this slatted circle that came up out of some kind of a base. And he said that this technology was made to help counteract the natural collapse of magnetic fields at a specific site near Sedona, Arizona. And he said the reason that they went to all this trouble was to keep out entities that can travel interdimensionally, and that Earth's naturally collapsing magnetic fields opened up portals for entry into our matter world. Then jump to July of 1997 from 1982. It was the 50th anniversary of the Roswell UFO crashes in the Roswell, New Mexico region. And there is where I met Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso, author of the brand new book in July of 1997 called The Day After Roswell. And as we were introduced, he extended his hand, and as I shook his hand, he said, quote unquote, "I want to know how the hell have you gotten so many classified government secrets?" Close quote. And he meant that I was investigating animal mutilations. He knew they were real. He knew that extraterrestrial biological entities were involved. He knew that I had done other investigations of human abductions, and he knew that that was related to the same phenomenon. He also seemed to be aware of information that I had reported from government whistleblowers, much of which he confirmed. So we sit down to talk at his invitation about those subjects and others, and he told me that in his work back in the 1960s for General Arthur Trudeau in the Pentagon, that his job, Corso's, was to get UFO technologies back engineered in a variety of American corporations so they could be patented, and then we in the United States would have corporate protection on those patents, those back engineered UFO ET technologies, and then in our government of, by, and for the people, that there would be no right for the people to get that information because it would be inside of corporations, and the government could say to the population, we don't have that technology. Technically, a corporation like Lockheed Martin would have back engineered the technology, but the money, the resources, paying for, and then using would be the Department of Defense and other related agencies. A clever way to have a capitalist democracy and keep secrets on all of this evolving technology coming through an alien intelligence or intelligences and keep it secret. The corporations helped keep the secret since World War II. And in all of this, in this discussion, Colonel Corso told me that he had been introduced to the concept that on our planet, our government knew of at least 9 sites around the planet where the magnetic fields would naturally collapse. And as he was telling me that, I immediately thought of the Martin Marietta engineer back in 1982 telling me the same information. It also reminded me of an airline pilot when I was working at CNN in 1989 to 1990. He crossed my path and he told me that some of the glowing lights that people have seen in the skies were actually, quote, tears in the electromagnetic membrane between this matter world and other dimensions, close quote. So I have long been exposed to the concept of portals or openings, natural or induced, in the magnetic fields around us that other intelligences can use to move from other dimensions and timelines in and out of our planet and our solar system. But no one has ever talked to me about what happened with my cat Simba in December of 2016. He had been increasingly ill for about a year before December of 2016. And right or wrong, I decided that I would try to be his hospice during those months. And toward the end, I was carrying him almost everywhere because he could not walk well. He couldn't hear well. There were many disabilities. And the thought of having him poked and prodded and any kind of surgery at the vet, I just felt he is passing. He has lived 18 full, wonderful years. And I'm just going to try to keep him as comfortable as I could until that awful moment when the life force, in a kind of miraculous microsecond, can leave the matter and go someplace else. And I remember the afternoon of the day leading up to when he would pass. I felt that he was really, really, really getting close. And I had called my brother and I had said, could you meet me at the vet's office the next day at noon? My brother worked and he could only take off lunch. And so I asked him if he would just plan to meet me at the veterinarian office at noon to help me, because I told him I did not know if I had what it took to hold him in my arms while they mercifully would transition him from the spark of life to that strange unknowable when we're alive, in which the spark is gone. Well, that night, knowing that he couldn't walk very well at all, I had put him in a box that was not too far from the kitty litter and had put his food and his water so he wouldn't have to move. And I went upstairs with a heavy heart and got into bed, shut off the light, and I know that I went to sleep. And then at about 4 o'clock on the clock, something woke me up. I do not know what. And I immediately went to the door of the bedroom and opened it, and Simba was lying outside of the door, had come up 2 flights of stairs on energy and volition that I couldn't even comprehend, because I had been carrying him everywhere. And English wasn't necessary. I could just feel him reaching out to me pick me up. And I picked him up, and we sat together from 4 o'clock to 8 a.m. for 4 hours. I just held him, and he purred a little. He didn't have much strength and energy, and I knew he could die in my arms in those 4 hours. And I don't know what was keeping him going. But by noon, I had driven to the veterinarian office and met my brother. And there was this quick minute when my brother took Simba from my arms and took him with the vet to disconnect him from a beating heart and from his breathing. And it was so fast, because the last moment, I'm looking right into his eyes that are still have that life that was Simba, the soul that was Simba. And in just a minute or two, my brother brought him back and put him in my hands, where he had just been alive with the energy in his eyes, and now his eyes looked like they were made of glass, gold glass. And I said out loud to him, to the universe, where did you go? Where did your soul go? Where did your life go? And we took him home and buried him with many tears right next to his brother who had died 1 year before. Their coffins even touch, out in a hill where I live. And it was a terrible, nauseating agony. I was grateful that he was out of his increasing misery, but I so missed the life. I so missed Simba. And that night, only now, a night after he had made the miraculous climb upstairs and we sat together those 4 hours, now it is the night without him, and I was feeling tremendous agony. And again, I shut my light out, and I know I went to sleep. I know I went to sleep. And the next miraculous moment, when my eyes opened up and I had consciousness in a dark room, but with enough light from outdoors coming through one of the windows that I could just barely see things in grays and blacks, that I realized that I was in a yoga lion pose. For those of you who do yoga, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Your arms are out straight, your legs are back straight, and you're arched up with your chin up to the sky. And that's how I became conscious, was in the lion yoga pose that I once did so much yoga. From a complete sleep, that's how I became conscious. And right in front of me, not more, it seemed, than 2 or 2.5 feet, was a ring of blue and yellow. To say that it looked like fire is not correct if you think of some of the drawings through the centuries. It was more like if you took electric current and you made it sort of even. It looked more like electrical current and that blue yellow, and it sort of had vibration in it, or flux. And I saw that so clearly, and right in the middle of this oval was Simba, alive, communicating, I'm here, I'm alive. And I had this instant where I am jumping up, I'm going to grab Simba, I'm going to pull him from this oval. And as I did this, I could see that there was a curving tunnel going right behind him, on a structural grayish tunnel with Simba up front, surrounded by this oval of bluish yellow, glowing, fluxing, electrical, some kind of light energy. And as I grabbed for him, seeing with astonishment the spiral tunnel going. Everything just resetted away. And I jumped onto the floor, turned on the lights, went and touched exactly where this oval and the tunnel and my dear, dear Simba had been so alive, and was doing this with my hands. It has to be here. What was here? Where did this go? And then it just hit me so astonishingly. My dear cat that had climbed those 2 flights of stairs, and I don't know how, and knew that I was in such agony over its passing, Simba came back to show me he was alive somewhere in what we would call another dimension. And there was 3 dimension to it. There was energy, and the fire and life and energy was back in his gold eyes. And I wanted to share that tonight with all of you who come to Earthfiles YouTube channel, because this was one of the discussions we had in Vermont as well about animals and the connection and communication at a soul level, in which there is true unconditional love in the animals, and how we humans, we need to go not only to compassion for each other, but a kind of unconditional agape love from soul to soul. And I hope that some of you listening tonight, that you will remember these words, no matter what comes up in the passings of people and animals that you love. And you'll remember what Simba did for me. So now, I thank you all so much for making Earthfiles YouTube channel so meaningful to me and to so many others now. Everywhere I go, people tell me that they are watching Earthfiles YouTube channel. And it means so much, because it's in this time of what feels like palpable revolution in so many directions that I think we need each other, and we need a place that we hopefully can trust to, I guess, stand on ground in which we all know we're trying to the best of our ability to deal with facts and truth. And with that, it is 10 till 8. Lori, if there are some questions, I think we could take 3 or 4 questions.
Well, Linda, I'll have to put the word out for questions right now. I wasn't ready for them so early, but could we thank a few people first?
Yeah.
I'd like to thank Christine, Seibel, River, and Carol Ann for their awesome super chats. And everyone who's listening, shoot me your question right now on chat, and we will go ahead and get it answered. And I'm sure you can share some more. Oh, we have one coming in right now.
Good.
Hold on one moment. Linda, around 1772, there was a colonial American who claimed to have had a UFO experience. Are you familiar with this, and do you know who that was?
No, I would love for somebody to teach me tonight on something here. Maybe they can explain.
All right, we're putting it out.
I'd also love to know if anybody listening tonight has had an experience with their animals anywhere near like what I've described happened with Simba. I would really like to know.
And also, thank you so much from John Weiniger and H. Smith.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess I should have had all of those wonderful questions from a few days ago ready, but I hope that in sharing this, that it might provoke people to either talk about their own experiences or ask questions that they might have on their minds about other dimensions and what we're dealing with in phenomena.
And we do have a question from a little earlier in the broadcast. What are some of the 9 locations on Earth that have low magnetic fields?
It's an excellent question, and I wanted to give you all 9. And then when I realized, I was thinking that it was in Colonel Corso's book, and I went through every page, and I've got it marked up every page. And then I realized he asked me about 2 months before he died if I would fly to Florida. We spent a day together. He talked to me from his heart. He showed me all kinds of documents and writing, and then it became clear it was in that discussion that he told me the 9 locations. And I know that I wrote it down on a notebook that I carried at that time. And they, as I recall, they were places that some that we knew, like Sedona, Arizona, was on that list, just like the Martin Marietta guy had told me in '82. In 1997, Colonel Corso said that Sedona, Arizona was one of the 9. And I think that places like Cheops and Delphi in Greece, some of those places were on his list. But it is fascinating to realize that we have a long history of phenomena and psychics and like the oracles of Delphi, and that the reason why they may have done the work that they did where they did, like in Delphi, had something to do with magnetic field collapses that would then either bring in others or information on some kind of a basis that people who understood, or entities that understood this, would have used in their ability to communicate allegedly as an oracle or as a magician or something else. And what I'm going to try to do is start reaching out to some people in current, both intel and military, and see if they have a list of 9 places on the Earth where magnetic fields would collapse naturally. But it is my understanding that we went around making these technologies inside of some kind of structure that was to counteract the collapse of magnetic fields. Was it successful? I don't know. But Colonel Corso stressed with me that magnetic fields and magnetic field collapses can be the openings, like the portals, like in a funny, strange way, whatever and however it worked with Simba, coming back in something oval with some kind of energy, and it had dimension to it, and that if those can be opened up, then other intelligences can come into our dimension. And maybe part of what our government is trying to do is to see if there is a way to back engineer creating these portals, and that we could leave the matter world and go into another dimension. Whether human technology has ever been able to do that, I do not know for a fact. My assumption is that in all these areas, and that's what Colonel Corso stressed with me back in 1997, we have knowledge, but we do not have the advanced physics to execute everything that the non-humans are. And it was so interesting today, looking for the 9 sites in his book. I opened up, he had signed with his signature and his date to Linda, "A new world is coming if you can take it." And the "you" is not just me, it's all humanity. A new world is coming if you can take it. And that was supposed to be a direct communication that Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso told me he had received telepathically from a non-human that he had met at the Trinity site at White Sands. The layers and layers behind what we have been exposed to for the last 70 years about Roswell and UFO crashes, and what is really the truth underneath, around, behind, is astonishing. Any other questions now?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you to Minnesota Folk and to Jerry for their awesome super chats. I have a question here. Let me see. Have you ever researched DMT and breakthrough experiences? If so, do you believe it's truly a different dimension?
Well, that is a subject that came up with some people this past weekend in Vermont. DMT, the God particle, the God molecule. I don't really have facts. I don't know. I'm very familiar with the concept, and the implication would be that with artificial drugs or ayahuasca or various things, that you could provoke a chemistry that would put us in touch, essentially, with the divine field, the God particle. And I'm not aware of hard evidence, and I'm familiar just enough to know that that's what the research was about. But I guess my own bias is that it is our soul, not chemistry, that has the link to the divine field. And I'm totally open to anybody in our audience who has more information. If there's anybody that is currently researching this, I would like to learn more. But I think I have such a firm feeling of alliance through my soul to the divine field that I have not really sought out information about some of the chemicals and plants. So that's an area I don't have a lot of knowledge about.
Okay. So other than in Roswell, do you know of other New Mexico UFO crash sites?
Oh, yes. If you took the state of New Mexico and you look at it starting up with Four Corners, going across a big swath in northern New Mexico where there is Farmington, Aztec, Dulce, Trinidad, near the Colorado-New Mexico border, Raton, coming down the mountains from Dulce and coming through sort of the center, getting down toward Santa Fe, all kinds of UFO stories. The crashes have been documented to some extent around Farmington and Aztec, not so well in some of these other areas, but I have talked with people who have firsthand knowledge about interactions with craft on the ground in some of those northern New Mexico areas. And then when you come down to the southern part of the state, you have Roswell, and then northwest of Roswell is Corona, and going west is Socorro, and there's Horse Springs, there's Dadle. There are a whole cluster of what appear to have been some kind of UFO crash sites, a variety of them in that area around Socorro and Dadle and Horse Springs. And then as you go further south in the Las Cruces area, there are stories of abductions and various interactions of other intelligences. So this state of New Mexico, for a very long time, in many places, not just July 2nd to 4th, 1947, have had all kinds of interactions and human eyewitnesses and retrievals by government units. another.
Yep. So we have, thank you, Serge from New York City. We appreciate your super chat. Let's see, who do you look forward to seeing at Contact in the Desert?
Well, there are speakers that we all like to get together. But let me tell you, one of the best parts of Contact for the last 4 years are you, the people who come. I have had some of the more inspiring and provoking discussions at Contact. I don't know if it's because it was hot and you had to have a kind of commitment to want to be there and go through the 4 or 5 days, but there is something that has been special that I have felt with that audience at Contact. So you guys, I hope a lot of people tonight will be at Contact and come up and tell me that you are in the Earthfiles YouTube audience, and we can talk about a lot of things. Now, the second thing outside of the speakers, yes, we all have a fun talking, but the second thing is the sky, is the night sky. When everything is settling down and you go out under this sky with not a lot of light pollution and you're seeing the Milky Way galaxy and you can see satellites moving, the sky comes alive. That is one of the pluses late at night after everything is over at Contact. And in Vermont, in Vershire, where we were just in the last few days ago, that group of us on the last night, we stayed out till somewhere after midnight. And that was an area of horse farm where there just didn't seem to be any lights for miles and miles and miles. I mean, really dark. And the Milky Way, it was dense. And we were seeing like a satellite a minute. Some couple moved in parallel, but we were seeing so much activity in that sky that we were kind of startled. We know there's 3,000 and some satellites up there, but in even Albuquerque, there's too much light pollution. You can go out and you'll see the brightest stars and you'll see some planets, but you don't see these breathtaking skies of our Milky Way galaxy with our own Earth satellites just constantly moving, almost like freeway traffic. That is really exciting to do. Anything else?
Yep. What is your opinion of Bob Lazar? Do you find him credible?
Yes. Bob Lazar is the real deal. He took bashing he did not deserve. In 1990 Memorial Day weekend, Bob Lazar, who I had met through John Lear and some others back in 1988 to 89, when he was actually in the throes of getting this opportunity to go out to EG&G and to see some real craft at Area 51 and to work on something having to do with a propulsion system. When it got to the spring of 1990, Bob Lazar and John Lear and Bill Hamilton and others of us were talking about getting together to do something in that Las Vegas region. And Bob invited me to come and visit him on the Memorial Day weekend. And that is when I heard his heartfelt description of his growing up. He was adopted. He was bright, but his family didn't have money to send him to college. He had students that were going to MIT and Harvard. He told me that he never claimed that he got a degree, but that he did go up and sit in on some of the classes of his friends at MIT, and that he had a deep interest in all things electrical, and that eventually this path of learning something by going to where his friends were in school and then ending up making choices where he could put himself in a position to do electronics work, and that he did end up working at Los Alamos, where he met Edward Teller, and told me that he told Edward Teller, I hear and understand that we're working on UFOs underground at a place called Area 51 in Nevada. I would like to be able to do that work. Can you help me? And that was Bob's description, and that that led to, now what Bob Lazar told me going back to 1990 was that he was only officially out at where the craft were underground at in the S4 Papoose Mountain area only 3 times. I remember specifically because it was only a few, and the division might have been official, and that he did have check stubs that came through the Department of Navy for those times that he was there. It would be like the way he put it, that he was a short-term consultant with EG&G, and that it was arranged by Edward Teller. And Bob, by personality, was then and is today. He is a person who is not going to take a 6-inch fish and turn it into a 6-foot marlin. He's not like that. And therefore, I found that his discussions with me about what he had seen and experienced seemed genuinely credible and lived by him. And it was Bob Lazar who told me that one of the books that he had handled, apparently put down in front of him at the McCarran airport so that he could fly in the plane to get out to Area 51. He said that it was the most amazing book, that you'd be holding it with the left hand on a spine, and the front cover would say Sol 3, SOL 3, third planet from the sun, Earth. Then you would turn the book upside down and change so that the spine would be on the right hand. And then when you open the book, it would be completely oriented in a different way, and it was called Reticuli 4. And he told me it was the 4th planet in one of the 2 solar systems in the binary Zeta Reticuli 1 and 2 system, that Reticula 4 is where the beings that created this book and were involved with Area 51 and the Earth came from. And he said the amazing thing was, when you were in the Reticulin 4, you would move a page somehow or move your hands, and holograms would come right up from the pages. And that he spent the time lifting up the page, trying to understand how something that would come up several inches in the air could be on what looked like a flat page. I've never forgotten him talking to me about his experience with this odd book that was about the Earth in one direction and spine, and was about the Zeta Reticulin 4 species if the book was turned upside down and the spine was put in the hand. And I think that Bob Lazar tried very hard with his video and interviews with George Knapp. He tried to explain what he had been exposed to, but the world back then was even more harsh. And when the government put out this, basically a phony claim that he was working in a house of prostitution, when the truth was he was doing the computer tech work for a house of prostitution in a county in Nevada where it was legal. And all of that, as Bob said to me, they wanted to hurt me. They wanted to destroy my credibility. They wanted to destroy my reputation. And they came at me with the prostitution charge And he said that's why I have chosen to continue to do research and do my own work. But that really, it all hurt him. But today, I think he is fine, except we are the losers because he doesn't want to interact with the public. But Bob Lazar learned a tremendous amount of valuable information, and it is sad that the government hurt him, his family, so badly that he basically separated himself from public life. And we are at about 8:15, and I want to thank everybody tonight for the super chats, for everything. I look forward to seeing your questions through Lori, and I am especially interested if any of you have ever had an experience with what seems like some sort of dimensional portal with a person or with an animal who has passed. It is an area that we all want to know a lot more about because it is so personal to our own evolution in a lifetime, what happens at the moment of death. And my cat Simba came back as if to say, I'm alive again, and that there is truth to what an alien allegedly told an Air Force captain at Los Alamos National Lab in the early 1950s, where it was being kept. Reincarnation, the recycling of souls, is the machinery of this universe. So let's all sleep on that tonight. Thank you.